Thank you, Jimmy Holder. Coming up a little bit later on, Brad Melke, ABC News correspondent, is going to be joining us. But right now, we have Senator Roy Blunt, newly reelected, newly sworn in for his second term. Good morning, Senator Blunt. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, McGraw. How are you this morning?
We're good. Everything ready to go for the inauguration?
I think so. The weather looks like it might even be decent, and so we're very actively looking in my office now at the 10-day forecast. Now it's less than the 10-day forecast, and seeing what happens there. But big concerns about how people are able to get access to the event. 250,000 people will come to the inauguration with tickets. They'll all go through a screening process, and then outside of that area, all the way back to the Lincoln Memorial, anticipated now maybe another 500,000 people who will just be there sort of on their own and with jumbotrons and other things able to see. But 750,000 people do create lots of challenges.
Now, you're in charge of this inauguration. Do you have like high school buddies calling you up saying, hey, Senator, do you have any tickets for me?
We have gotten several calls on this, but every member of the House and Senate, plus the president's transition team, has tickets, and I think there's a lot of demand for those tickets, and probably almost all 250,000 of the tickets are spoken for.
All right. Let's get to some news, and let's first start with this Obamacare. Where do you stand on this? You've been critical of it for years, but are you in favor of repealing it and then waiting to replace it? Do you want to replace it now? Where do you fall down on all this?
Well, I think there are different things being discussed that sort of make this a little bit confusing for people to hear. The idea that, well, we're going to repeal it and replace it at the same time, which we're all for, but that doesn't mean you do it at the same moment. Whatever the repeal bill is will not repeal, first of all of Obamacare, like the provision if you're 26 and still on your family insurance or up to 26, that won't go away because there's no government cost. The only thing we're able to repeal at 51 votes are things that actually involve the budget and money, and there'll be a transition period that by the time any of the Obamacare benefits go away, there will have been plenty of time for the Congress to put in a better replacement. And I don't think you have to be any kind of a great observer to understand that Obamacare has made things worse for most people, and except for Medicaid, has added very few people to insurance coverage.
The argument, though, is you've had 6 years to come up with a new alternative. It seems like no one's coalesced around an alternative, and once you take it away, will it be harder to find something better?
Well, I think really not much of an argument, because in that 6 years, the president was never going to embrace the kind of alternatives that we had been talking about, not for 6 years, but for 8 and 10 years. There are plenty of alternatives out there, things like using health savings accounts in a better way, buying insurance across state lines, more options available to families for the insurance they need rather than the insurance the government says every single person should have. Obviously, one size fits all doesn't work. There are plenty of alternatives out there, and President Obama was not going to embrace any of those alternatives, so there's no real reason in that 6 years to come up with a exhaustive package of everything we should do. We kept talking about all those things. The biggest straw man of Obamacare was the president's constant contention that nobody else had any other ideas. That was never true, and of course you and I have talked about a lot of those ideas on this program a lot of times.
Yeah. One of the things I know is very important to you is the mental health side of things, and you've been an advocate for quite a bit of mental health coverage here in America.
Well, I have, and actually, one of the exciting things that happened in the last couple of weeks is in this 8-state model that we're going to put in place over the next 2 years. Missouri will be one of the 8 states where in significant locations all over our state, a significant number of locations, mental health will be treated just like all other health. Not only is that the right thing to do, but I think what states that do this are going to find is that their overall cost for that universe of individuals probably goes down, because any other health care problems that people in the mental health treated group have are dealt with so much more easily and so much effectively. But more important, dealing with mental health, like all other health, is just what the country said 50 years ago it was going to do. And we're unfortunately still 50 years behind in meeting that goal.
Yeah. One more thing while we have you, Senator Blunt, and that is the confirmation hearings. It's been a pretty explosive week with you and your colleagues over the FBI reports of unleaked documents, leaked documents, Russia having something on President-elect Trump, not having on him. It's pretty explosive time in Washington. What are your thoughts as you watch all this?
Well, actually, I think the cabinet is a cabinet of great capacity, the kind of people that President-elect Trump has asked to join the government. Pretty impressive by any standards that I'm aware of. We had a hearing yesterday with the designee to be the CIA director, Mike Pompeo from Kansas, incredibly capable, well prepared for that job. Right down the line. I was in a couple of those hearings this week, but I think that unless something comes up that nobody is currently aware of, the entire cabinet is likely to be confirmed. I think we'll do a handful of them next Friday, the first day of the administration, actually the first afternoon and evening of the administration, and we'll see what happens there. And in terms of the leaking of information, I thought it was pretty significant that General Clapper, the head of the Director of National Intelligence, called President-elect Trump yesterday to apologize for not being able to control the leaks from the intelligence community itself. The intelligence community, we're incredibly dependent on them. They do a great job, and the idea that either the FBI or the intelligence community would be leaking things to the press that aren't substantiated is concerning. And that's one or two people in a universe of people that dedicate their lives to keeping us safe, and hopefully we'll get everybody in the right place as we look to the future.
It's your job is going to get a lot more interesting over the next couple of years, right? I mean, this is we're being here. Put your seatbelt on because it's going to start getting exciting around there.
It is, and I think President Trump brings a synergy to this process that nobody else would have brought. He wasn't my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice to be president, but as I see what's happening here and the new discussion in Washington of, wait a minute, we've got to look at this differently because the president is going to look at this differently. We don't have to do things the way they've been done. We can do things in different ways. People want the regulators to get the regulators under control, to think about good jobs first and foremost, and then have only the regulations we absolutely have to have to protect the country and the environment, not just regulations that somebody thinks will be a good idea 25 years from now. I think this is going to be a time when we have a chance to really get much more focused on better jobs next year rather than being focused on what the world looks like 25 years from now. And if people have better jobs next year, the world's going to look a lot better 25 years from now, because we'll be able to afford to move forward in a more positive way with a stronger economy and stronger families.
Senator Blunt, next time you're in town, stop by. We'd love to have you on the show.
I will. I'll see you both soon, and look forward to being with you.
You got it. Senator Roy Blunt, United States Senator from Missouri, in charge of the inauguration. Right? You're in charge of an inauguration. That's kind of a big deal, right? You're putting a party on for the changing of the most powerful men in the world. 7:29. We'll do numbers. We'll do it next. Big 550 KTRS.